Alright, stop scrolling for a second, because what I'm about to tell you is not the version of Jelly Roll you're used to seeing on stage, smiling, joking, and hugging fans like he's known them his whole life. This is the part of his story he almost never talks about. The part he admits still makes him feel ashamed every time he looks in the mirror. And the wildest thing is, it's permanent. It's literally written on his body, and no amount of success, money, or sold-out arenas can erase it. Before we even get into it, I want to be real with you for a second. I've been reading through your comments on the last few videos, and I see some of you are calling out the drama. Honestly, I get it. In a world full of scripted TV, clickbait headlines, and stories that feel like they were cooked up by a robot, it's hard to know what's actually real anymore. I felt the same way when I first saw this headline about Jelly Roll. I almost scrolled past it. But then I started digging into his actual interviews, his own words, the moments where his voice cracks and he stops joking around. And what I found genuinely messed with me. Before we get into the heavy stuff, I'm doing this for you, to bring the truth into the open, so if you appreciate honest stories like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. That's how we keep this space real. Now here's the hook nobody tells you up front. Jelly Roll, one of the most open, emotional, I've been through hell and made it out, artists in America right now, says there's one thing he can never outrun. Not his past arrests, not his addiction, not even the years he spent locked up. It's something etched into his skin from a time when he didn't believe he'd live long enough for it to matter. And that's where this story really starts. Long before Jelly Roll was winning over country fans who swore they'd never listen to a rapper, before he was hugging strangers on stage and crying through lyrics about redemption, he was just Jason DeFord, a kid from Antioch, Tennessee, growing up in chaos. His mom struggled with mental health issues. His dad sold meat out of the trunk of his car. Home never felt stable, and school never felt safe. By the time most kids are worried about prom and graduation, Jelly Roll was already running the streets, getting arrested, and trying to survive in an environment where showing weakness could get you hurt. Music wasn't a dream back then. It was an escape, a way to say things out loud that he couldn't say anywhere else. But here's what people forget. When you grow up surrounded by pain, you don't plan for a future. You plan for tonight. And when you don't believe you're going to make it to 30, you make decisions that feel permanent because, in your mind, nothing else is. That mindset is what led him to the moment that still haunts him. In his late teens and early 20s, Jelly Roll was deep in the lifestyle. In and out of jail. Addicted. Angry. Feeling worthless. And like a lot of people in that headspace, he turned to tattoos. Not the polished, symbolic, Instagram-ready kind. These were raw, impulsive, sometimes reckless choices made without thinking about who he might become one day. At the time, the tattoos felt like armor. Proof that he belonged somewhere. Proof that he was tough enough to survive what life kept throwing at him. But fast forward a few years, and that same ink started to feel like a brand he couldn't scrub off. Here's where the internet went absolutely feral. When Jelly Roll finally opened up and admitted that he feels shame over some of the tattoos on his body, especially ones tied to his past mindset, fans didn't know how to react. TikTok exploded overnight. One clip alone had millions of views, with people pausing the video just to zoom in on his face when he said it. You could see it in his eyes. This wasn't fake emotion. This was real regret. On X, people were fighting in the replies. One fan wrote, "That's his story. Those tattoos are part of what makes him real." Another shot back, "Easy to say when you don't have to explain that ink to your kid someday." And that's when it got deeper, because Jelly Roll does have a daughter now. And that changes everything. On Reddit, entire threads popped up dissecting which tattoos he might be talking about. Some people defended him fiercely, saying, he shouldn't be ashamed of surviving. Others were more blunt, saying, growth means admitting some things shouldn't have been done. And I know what you're thinking right now. Tattoos are just tattoos, right? Lots of people regret them. Why is this such a big deal? Here's why. For Jelly Roll, those tattoos aren't just bad decisions. They're reminders of a version of himself he fought like hell to escape. Layer 1 of the reveal is this: the shame isn't about the ink itself. It's about who he was when he got it. A man who didn't care if he lived or died. A man who hurt people, including himself, and didn't think he deserved better. Layer 2 goes even deeper. Jelly Roll has talked about standing on stage, thousands of fans screaming his name, and still feeling that flicker of embarrassment when he catches his reflection backstage. Because no matter how far he's come, his body still tells a story he didn't choose to keep telling. Layer 3 is where it gets personal. He's admitted that he thinks about how those tattoos might affect his daughter. How one day she might ask questions he's not ready to answer. How he worries that his past, literally written on his skin, could follow her into rooms he can't protect her from. Layer 4 is the part fans didn't expect. Jelly Roll isn't pretending to be perfect now. He's not saying, "Look at me, I figured it all out." He's saying, "I'm still living with the consequences." And that honesty is uncomfortable, because it reminds all of us that growth doesn't erase scars. It just teaches you how to live with them. But here is the part that truly broke the internet. Layer 5. The final reveal. Jelly Roll admitted that if he could go back, it's not that he'd erase every tattoo. It's that he wishes he had believed he was worth a future before he ever sat in that chair. That he mattered enough to think long term. That he deserved a life where he'd one day stand in front of millions as a symbol of redemption instead of regret. Let that sink in for a second. This isn't a story about tattoos. It's about self-worth. About what happens when someone grows up feeling disposable, then wakes up years later realizing they survived something they never thought they would. And that's why this hit people so hard. Some fans on TikTok were crying in their reaction videos. One comment said, "I got ink at 19 because I thought I wouldn't live past 25. I'm 34 now, and I feel this in my soul." Another wrote, "This is why Jelly Roll connects with people. He doesn't act like success fixed everything." Others pushed back, saying, "He shouldn't feel shame. Those tattoos saved his life at the time." And honestly, both sides have a point. And that tension is exactly why this conversation matters. So I want to ask you something, and really think about it. Is it possible to be proud of how far you've come and still regret how you got there? Can both things exist at the same time? Jelly Roll's career right now is on fire. He's winning awards. He's crossing genres. He's bringing people together who never thought they'd agree on music. But behind all of that is a man who still wakes up some days carrying the weight of choices made in survival mode. And maybe that's why his music hits so hard. Because when he sings about redemption, he's not selling you a fantasy. He's inviting you into the mess. The kind of mess that doesn't disappear just because life gets better. So the next time you see Jelly Roll on stage, smiling, hugging fans, thanking everyone for giving him a second chance, remember this. Some of the battles he's won aren't visible. And some of the ones he still fights are etched into his skin forever. I want to know what you think. Do you see his tattoos as part of his truth, or do you understand why they bring him shame? And if you've ever made a permanent choice during a temporary dark time, did this story hit a little too close to home? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read more of them than you think. And if you're still here, thank you for staying to the end. That tells me you care about real stories, not just headlines.